let's dig in deeper with NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder, who is also a CIA officer and FBI special agent. Tracy, always good to see you. I wanted to start off with some polling, new polling that we got. The latest NewsNation Decision Desk HQ poll found that 77% of Americans are either very or somewhat concerned that Israel's war on Hamas will lead to a terrorist attack here in the United States. And just to remind our viewers at home, you were very involved with tracking down the perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks, including Osama bin Laden. How do the anxieties we're experiencing now with the war in Israel compare to what we felt and saw after September 11th?
Well, thank you for having me, Markie. That's really a great question. I think what's even more concerning is sort of that second number, a 400% increase in anti-Semitic attacks, and then basically a 700% increase in anti-Muslim fear against attacks as well. And I think that is a little bit different than what we are seeing in regards to September 11th. I think we're a bit more unified in our response. Also, Al-Qaeda works a bit differently than what we see with Hamas, ISIS, those kinds of things now. And Director Wray talked about the increase in what he called lone wolf attacks, what we call lone ranger attacks. Those are a lot more difficult to track. With Al-Qaeda, I don't want to say it was easier. Nothing's easy when it comes to terrorists. But the reality is these groups of individuals needed to talk. They needed to talk about logistics. They needed to talk about upcoming events that they were planning. And a lot of times, that's how we would catch them. With lone rangers, they're not talking to anyone. They are inspired by these actions overseas, and they're taking it upon themselves to wreak havoc. And that is very difficult to track.
Yeah, and we know that Al-Qaeda has issued the most specific calls for violence against the U.S. that we've seen in years, quite some time. Tracy, as you know, there's also a lot of anxiety that Hamas or Hezbollah fighters could be entering the country illegally via the U.S.-Mexico border, because let's be real, it's still very open. Is that a concern that you also share?
It's absolutely a concern that I share. Even when I was at CIA, we were concerned about some of the routes that Hezbollah was making into our southern border. Folks may or may not know, but in an area called the Tri-Border region in South America, there is a larger presence of Hezbollah, particularly even now in Venezuela, with influence from Iran and Iranian money into that country. And I am concerned that Hezbollah in particular may be making its way up into our southern border. And then that becomes really, really difficult, because the reality is they may not, the person coming in may not be tied directly to some kind of a Hamas leader or a Hezbollah leader that we know, but we can't screen for the ideas that they have, and that makes it incredibly difficult. If we don't have proper screening procedures in place and our border is too porous, that's going to be problematic, and people will enter through the south.
Yeah, and we've seen the number of gotaways. I mean, you know, it's like, forget about the people who are stopped and screened. Think about all the people who, you know, we don't even know are entering the country. I also thought, you know, it was interesting yesterday, FBI Director Christopher Wray pointing out that he hasn't seen this kind of radicalization since the dawn of ISIS. How does Hamas appeal to potential terrorists, and why is this war such a lightning rod for extremists?
So the one key word there is actually social media. They are excellent at utilizing social media and really galvanizing the 18 to 25-year-old crowd. ISIS was excellent at that as well. Al-Qaeda is kind of viewed as the older folks who are not utilizing social media. And really utilizing social media, these ideas spread like wildfire. And people are seeing this. They're seeing that they're successful and they're inspired and they want to be just like them.
Yeah, we've seen it, you know, spread extremely fast, the misinformation, the vitriol. This last one is just more of a personal question for you and how other families move forward. You know, as someone who is a former CIA and FBI officer, but is also an American Jew, what is your safety and security advice right now for Jewish families? I mean, families who are frightened to send their kids to school, to go out in public with anti-Israel protests in the streets, some families don't even want to publicize that they're Jewish right now, but they also don't want to give into fear and they don't want evil to win. What do you tell other Jewish families to best navigate this time?
You know, it's funny, Markie, the vast majority of any threats or pushback that I get, you know, being somewhat public, actually is anti-Semitic in nature. That's what I get the most out of anything. And it's funny because really being Jewish is the thing I talk about the least, quite frankly. I think for Jewish folks, I do agree with Director Wray. We can't stop our daily lives because then terrorists win. But I think we have to be careful. If I am hearing that there are potential attacks coming up, or if I am hearing that activity is increasing in Israel and in Gaza, one of the things I'm going to do is probably keep my daughter home from Hebrew school and from religious schools. I know temples are increasing security, but then that begets a bigger conversation with our children about why people don't like us. And so then that becomes very difficult and becomes sort of a downward spiral.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.